Welcome to the Business Leader Spotlight. The Business Leader Spotlight is bringing attention to those in our community making a difference in business. It is also an opportunity to identify the skills they have learned and applied to get where they are. And now, let us go into this week's interview.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Business Leader Spotlight. I'm your host, Michael Butler, and this week I have with me Tony Lynch. Tony Lynch is from the UK over across the pond. Good afternoon, Tony. How are you today?
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Good afternoon. Good morning. It's brilliant to be here in this side of the pond, as you said, over in England. It's great.
All right. So, Tony, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, first of all, I guess I'm a son, I'm a father, and I'm also a father, husband, got two wonderful children, Caroline and Christopher, and three grandchildren as well.
Oh, wow.
Which is lovely. So Leo, Annabelle, and Artie. And the grandchildren, they don't live too far away, a couple of hours door to door, which is fine. I live in a town called Woking in Surrey, which for people who know London, that's about 30 minutes south of London. And I've lived here since 1970 in this town.
Wow.
So I know a lot of people in the town.
Is it a big town?
It's a population of around just over 100,000.
Okay.
And if any of your listeners are good on history, H.G. Wells, he did War of the Worlds,
yes,
which is in a village called Horsell, which is in Woking. So I can walk there and I can see where the Martians landed.
Okay, I actually read that again probably in the last 2 years. So
right.
You talk about it. It kind of brought back some memories of reading the book. So that's really interesting, and how you have such history right there in your area. And you said it's pronounced Woking?
Woking, yes.
Okay.
So many years ago, before I was born, originally it was called Wok,
okay.
W-O-K, and then a bit later on that came Woking. And Woking, I guess, really, if you look at the history of Woking, came on the map during the war. That is when Woking really was quite a focused area of the southeast of England.
Okay. Wow. That's quite a bit of history right there. I didn't expect it to go down that road, but that's great. So, Tony, I understand, just knowing a little bit about you and a little bit of your history, you have a consulting firm over there in the UK. How did you get into leadership development? How did you get into owning your own business? How did you get started down that road?
Yeah, well, great question, Michael. I don't know how long we've got, but anyway, let me try and answer this question because it's a great question. Let's turn the clock right back, I guess, because I went to work for a company when I was very young, probably about 16, 17. I started in the world of estate agency in America. You might call it real estate. In England, we call it estate agency. And I did very well with the corporate company that I worked for. So well that I thought, I wonder if I could do this myself. And so on the 4th of September, 1995, I actually launched my own business.
Okay.
I was the estate agent with no buyers, no sellers on day one, and I went into it straight cold. As I look back at it, some people thought I was mad, some people thought I was brave. I was probably a mixture of both at the time. But I went into it because, first of all, I believed in myself. I believed in the product that I could offer to the public, and a lot of people really encouraged me to do that. And then during owning my own company in real estate, the offices grew in number, the team grew in number, and therefore my leadership skills needed to increase. Yes. And There came a time where, I was investing in my own self in the sense of self-development,
Yes.
leadership and training, that there came a time where I thought to myself, actually, I don't need to send my team off to other trainers to be trained.
Right.
Because I could now do it.
Okay.
Because I'd sat in front of many, many trainers, I'd read many books, but actually, it wasn't just a case of sitting in front of trainers. It wasn't just a case of reading the books, but it was a case of actually walking the walk and putting these things into practice, knowing through experience what works and what doesn't. And therefore, my leadership had to grow. Now, if I could just interject with a story here of how one day my leadership took a change quite quickly and quite dramatically, was when I worked for a large corporate company. I was part of a team, and I did really well within sales. So I competed against the people to my left and to my right. I did well.
Yes.
But within sales, if you do well, what generally happens is that they then promote you to a position that might be out of your strength zone.
Okay. Yes.
So here's Tony Lynch as a good salesperson competing with other people in my office. I then get promoted, Michael, to become a manager. Okay. Now, manager is manager of people. So I'm promoted on a Friday to become a manager. Come Monday when I come in, I'm supposed to now know what it's like to be a leader and how to manage the team and how to get the best from there. But actually, only on Friday was I competing against them.
Right.
So anyway, I come into this role and I do the best as I can. Not a very good job, to be honest. And one of the Monday mornings, because we always had a Monday morning staff meeting, we'd get in early. But I arrived to the office one Monday, and to my surprise and to my slight horror, my area director turned up early in the morning to come to the meeting. I hadn't invited him. And so, the meeting went on and he was there, very conscious he was there. And then after the meeting finished, he said, "Tony, can I have a word with you in the back office, please?" I said, "Yeah, sure, Mark. Let's go in." And he said, "Hey, Tony, I've just got to tell you, your staff do not like the way you're leading the office."
Ouch.
And all of a sudden, my world fell apart. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to work through this? I had some crazy thoughts like, how could they go behind my back to the director? Why didn't they talk to me? Perhaps they had talked to me.
Right.
And I hadn't listened.
Yes.
Perhaps they had talked to me and I hadn't listened, so I hadn't learned how to manage people. And this is a way that they could see of how to change Tony Lynch. And my director, he had faith and confidence in me and said, "But you can still do it. But you've got to make it work. You've got to make it work. This is a high position you've been given. You've got to make it work." So I determined, Michael, on that day to make sure that the quality of my leadership would change. It went from a positional leadership now to leading with people and for people, and understanding how I could learn now how to listen. Oh, in fact, I call this my 3 L's. How I could listen, how I could learn, and from that listening and learning, I could lead the effective change that needs to happen. I then took on that office with a whole new vision. That office did so well, really well, that not only did I do well in that office as a manager, I then became a director for a number of offices in that area because of what I had modeled in that office. Now, the crazy thing is, when other managers were having challenges with their own staff, they would send them to me for training.
Wow. That's
now that all changed, Michael, on that Monday morning. And one key thing about when you get news like this is how you respond, is your attitude. Now, my attitude could have gone one of two ways. I could have gone out there and told them what for. Or rather, my attitude was, I could learn from this. Now, it was only my choice. It wasn't their choice. It was my choice.
Right.
And I'm glad I made the right choice, because that enabled further promotion. I was able to bring in more staff. Office did really well. But from that then allowed me to have gone so well with growing in my leadership that I could then start my own company, knowing I'd worked through how to launch a company, how to work with people, so I could now launch a company.
Wow. That's a great example of how taking what would be normally a setback, to have your area director come in there and have that kind of conversation with you. And of all things, on a Monday morning,
Monday morning, yeah. And it's so true, Michael, that, we all have setbacks.
Yeah.
I could put up two hands, two legs. We all have setbacks. But what I've come to learn in life is, and it's not just a fancy saying, I really do believe this, what I'm going to say, is that a setback can be a setup to come back.
Yeah.
So I had a choice of how I would come back, literally, when I opened that door in the back office, back into the big office,
yes.
because they knew what was happening in that back office at the time.
Right. And you say something that I think I want to touch on, just kind of hear what your thoughts on this are, is at that moment, there's a lot of emotions that you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And not only getting your area director to have that conversation with you, you then knowing and opening the door to all the people that I'm going to use the phrase that went behind your back and told on you, so to speak.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you dealt with that emotional piece of it? Because I think that's just as important as the steps you used to turn it around, but how'd you deal with those emotions at that point in time?
Yeah. I think for me, it was seeing the big picture, because that situation could have made my world a lot smaller. Me against the whole world, me against the whole team.
Yes.
But actually, what I did was I remember seeing the bigger picture, thinking, actually, if I can turn this, I'm not going to turn it by myself. We are going to turn it. So it went from I to we, because I had to bring them on board.
Yes.
So there were things that they needed to change in still, but there were things that I needed to change in as well. And I think looking at the bigger picture, so it's not just a micro picture, we have this issue, but actually it's taking the micro behavior, now looking at the bigger picture and saying, actually, if we keep an eye on the bigger picture, it's going to give us fuel and strength to get over these little things that are still critical to get over. But actually, if we can do this, hey, could we, in a state agency in that office, become the best in the town? Yes. So, vision started to come to us. Then momentum started to come to us because of the results that we were seeing. Now, I still had the reputation in those days, which was a strong and hard reputation, but that's why other managers sent people to me. And my saying that people still quote today is Tony Lynch would often say, results, not excuses. Now, there's a whole lesson in that, because the excuses could be our internal ones. Yes. It could be we make excuses for the economy. This is why I'm like this now. But actually, we have to, with coaching and with leadership, be aware of two things. It often raises awareness and responsibility. So on that day, coming back into the office, now Tony Lynch is aware of the choppy leadership that he brought out.
Yes.
I'm now aware, but can I calm the storms? I'm now aware, but also comes responsibility. And that's the art of also good leadership with coaching, it raises awareness, but not just awareness, self-awareness, but then responsibility. How do I respond to this as well?
Yes. I like how you put the two together. It's as soon as awareness is raised, responsibility is right there with it. There's no increased awareness without increased responsibility, because as soon as you become aware, you're automatically responsible now. And the two kind of walk hand in hand. They're like twins, or two sides of a coin. Without one,
definitely,
they're necessary. So
definitely.
So you've gone through this process in the estate agency, and you're building teams. Your team is growing. I'm going to take the step and say that's how you got involved with John Maxwell, or started to hear about John Maxwell.
Yeah. Because coming back to a point I mentioned, that there came a time where I thought I don't need to send other people, my team off to training within my own company, because actually I was reading books from John Maxwell.
Yes.
And I was following John's material, you could say, with a small f. I was dipping into it. I was using some of it within my own team. And, I invested a lot of time in my team in training, because I'm a great believer that with good leadership, talent doesn't come and go, but talent can come and grow. And with the training that I was doing, with the input I was having from John Maxwell's books, then there was a day that I came across, it was probably on a Facebook advert or something, I came across John Maxwell was launching a team, or had just launched it. And I asked a few friends in my church, I'm a person of faith, and I asked a few people in my church, I said, what do you think of this material? What do you think, could this be a good match for me? And some said, yeah, it would be like hand in glove, because, you're good at training, it'd be great material. And so I joined the John Maxwell team, I guess 7-8 years ago, probably 8 years ago now. Okay. And, people joined the team for various reasons. But I joined the team, I guess, because I thought I could probably take this to a whole new level in my life.
Right.
Because I knew that I wouldn't retire in old age being an estate agent.
Right.
I'd always planned to come out of it when I was a bit younger,
Yes.
Because I've still got a few more years definitely left in me. But actually, what could I naturally do which would be a good fit? And so, to build a company, you've got to build a team. To build a successful company, you've got to build success and draw success out of a team. And so for me to now transition into that was a step up, but wasn't a complete step that I've never done before, but it was a step up. And so the material helped. I've got great friends within the John Maxwell team. I'm quite an active member. And John would say himself that the association to John can often open doors, but to be honest, it doesn't matter how good or how bad you are. John Maxwell's name may open a few doors, but actually it does matter how good or how bad you are, because actually, you may be able to go in, but if people don't like you, then it's going to be a quick in and out.
Yes.
But actually, but if you can be somebody, I would say, with wisdom and experience and delivery and trust, then that's a good mixture for success in moving forward.
Oh yeah, I think you said it. It's the name John Maxwell can open the door for you, but how long you stay on the inside of that door is determined by you.
Yes.
You also mentioned that you're very active in the team, on the John Maxwell team. I know at one point you were a member of the President's Advisory Council. I guess what made you go from being a member of the team to wanting to give back to the team? Sure.
Well, in fact, I'm still part of the President Advisory Council. So I've been part of the team, I guess, for 3-4 years, serving in different ways, just putting up my hand if I can go and help. So it could just be helping at the bookshelf, or just doing different things, but also making sure that some of the material that they offer, that you're actually putting it into practice, and you become you could say, a product of the product. Yes. Hey, it doesn't mean you get everything right at all, but you're beginning to work with the material, you're beginning to have input into your local community, you're beginning to make it work for you and for others. And I guess one or two people then noticed and said, hey, we're going to be opening up soon what's called PAC, President Advisory Council. Fill in an application form and let's see where it goes. So I did, and I've held different roles within that over the years. So part of the executive team. Then I think I became the chairman for what it was called SAC, which was the Simulcast Advisory Council, with regard to Live to Lead, which is happening again this week.
Yes.
And so I did that for a couple of years, having led Live to Lead myself. And then today, what do I do within the President Advisory Council? I now work more behind the scenes, so what's generally known as the peer review team. Yes. So I'm one of the people who monitor the Facebook pages and just make sure that people are keeping within the guidelines.
Yes.
That we do have, to make sure that those pages work well and are functional, and fulfill the desired what it needs to do. So it's a great team to be part of, President Advisory Council. Quite often, it'll be behind the scenes, but also over the years, I've done a number of training calls for the certification. I think for about a 3-year period, every Tuesday morning, I did a call, and also help out on the mentorship pages every so often for their calls. Yes. As well.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I reached out to you to get an interview, is you were one of the first non-faculty member that I had sat in on one of the calls, and I was really interested in one, your take on things, and being able to take John's material and make it, I guess for me, I look at myself as a very common kind of person, and you took some of the pieces that I would elevate in my mind and made it, and you broke it down small enough to be like, oh yeah, even a guy like me can use it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you and interview and just have a kind of a conversation and hear a little bit about your history.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. I think, when we look at John's material, Michael, John is the leadership guru. Yes. And you and I, we're not going to be John, but you're going to be the best Michael you can be, and I'm going to be the best Tony I can be. But what we do is John teaches good principles, but what we do is we take those principles and we translate them into practices. And so, John comes out with a good principle, but how do I practice it within my life? And as a business growth consultant, I'm very much focused on helping people to grow their business, launch their business, scale their business. And John is very good at the material that he delivers, but I then begin to put it into practice over the years, obviously, as well, with my own history of running businesses. And so with the mixture of the two, anyone looking to develop a business, this is really good news, because as John says, everything rises and falls upon leadership. And so, leadership isn't just a good fuzzy feeling. It has solid, tangible results. And going back to that day I mentioned, walking into that back office, that was focused on leadership. John focuses upon leadership, but what can come out of leadership as well is so key. So for me, I often describe leadership when I work with people and companies is leadership is the ability to lead others to places they could not have gone without you.
That's a mouthful right there. There's so much
It's a morning seminar.
you've sharing so many great pieces and tidbits of information and just your journey of getting to where you are today. Now, one of the things that you've kind of come across in your journey is you had the opportunity to speak for TEDx. What was that process like preparing for that? I know that with the John Maxwell team, there's a lot of coaching, there's a lot of training with helping with public speaking and things of that nature. But I know there are a lot of people like, oh my goodness, it must have been so great to be able to get up there and speak, for a TEDx and to have that kind of talk. Can you talk a little bit about that process of preparing for that?
Sure. Love to. Thank you for the question. Let's just go back a step, because there's often steps behind the story.
Yes.
There's often steps behind the event. And so one of the first steps towards this was coming back to what we call the IMC, which is the International Maxwell Certification. That's the event that we all gather as John Maxwell team coaches and trainers twice a year, pre-COVID. During one of the days, if you've worked with one of the faculty members who works on how to get better as a speaker, you may get chosen to go to the main stage in front of thousands of people to deliver a short 3-minute talk. And I prepared really, really hard for that. Now, in those days, Michael, if you were chosen to go up to give your 3-minute talk, you would not know about it until you heard your name mentioned in the room.
Wow. Okay.
So they've changed it now, but in my day, literally the first time I knew I was one of the ones, because they couldn't, there were only 15, I think, was when I heard this guy say, "Is Tony Lynch here?" Oh, right, okay. So, you go to the front, and I only had one focus, Michael. That was to deliver well into the room. My talk starts probably about halfway through it. People are clapping, so I know it's going well. And people stand at the end and they clap. And, I felt to myself, I delivered well. That was my only focus. What I didn't anticipate at all was what happened after. So I'm then sent this video of my talk. I then put it on my website, keepthinkingbig.com. Do a bit of marketing with it. And then what happens is that I hear from somebody that TEDx is coming to my hometown. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. Now, what I didn't know was that somebody was speaking to the organizer and said, hey, if you're looking for a good speaker for TEDx, go and listen to this guy's video, going back to the IMC one.
Yes.
So this is all happening without me being aware of it. I then get a call, and cut a long story short, they came, interviewed me. I signed a contract, because with TEDx you have to sign a contract, because you have to keep within certain guidelines. And they asked me to be a TEDx speaker. I then go and deliver TEDx is absolutely amazing. So, it's often talked as the talk of your life. It's got to be under 18 minutes. It must be non-political and non-religious, and you can't sell from the stage. And, there's a few other things. So anyway, I'm the second speaker up, deliver, it all seems to go well. Just around that sort of time as well, if you've heard of Inc.com.
Yes.
So you've got Success, you've got Forbes, you've got Inc.com. Inc.com picks up on this as well. Again, you can see an article on my website. They then produce a list, and their title is the top 100 leadership speakers for your next conference.
Oh, wow.
It had people on there like John Maxwell. And then it had a crazy guy called Tony Lynch.
Wow. Wow.
All of that was back to that 3 minutes delivering in the room. I'm not even sure if I'd watched a TED talk before then. I hadn't heard of Inc. I come from England.
Yep.
So, one door can often lead to a corridor of other doors. And then off the back of that, we haven't got time now, but off the back of that, just begin to think, TEDx speaker, top 100 leadership speakers for your next conference with Inc. A few other doors opened as well.
Yes.
All because I delivered well in the room. So, as I look back on it and as I train people and help people, I often say you must have a process for progress. Right. And if you've got a good process, you want to deliver well, probably progress is not too far away. Yeah. But don't be caught up with the big shiny object of the destination. But what's the one thing I can do today to build my team? What's the one thing I can do today to grow myself? What's the one thing that I need to start to change? So even today, as I'm quite an early riser, again, I'm looking at an article, just putting something together because of the time of the year where it's called review and prepare. So we actually review intentionally because we're preparing to move forward.
Yes. That I like how you describe that whole process, because a lot of times there's a group of people that are always looking at, okay, well, if I have the opportunity to speak on stage over here, if I have the opportunity to get a book published, if I could put an online class out there, whatever the big shiny object is, if I focus on that, then everything else will happen there. You brought it back several steps and it was like, okay, well, what can I do right now? What are the things under my control that I can do right now? Because the door came as a part of the process of, okay, I'm going to prepare and be good to prepare to have this 3-minute speech. That's all I'm focused on. Then from there, the next steps, you didn't even have to put any effort, so to speak, into making those opportunities come. You just did the thing you had control over. And it shows that a lot of things are going on that we have no control. We don't see all of how the dots are connected or the dominoes are going to fall. Yeah. And it's a matter of, okay, am I in the room right now? And am I prepared in the room right now? And that makes me think about times like we're in right now, where people are spending a lot of time at home. They're not able to do business in the way that they previously did. Do you mind talking about how you're dealing with this kind of transition now?
Yeah. I think having, perhaps this will give my age away, I guess. Having worked through 3 recessions, this is a 3rd one. I think, Michael, a recession often reveals us and how we respond to it, how we respond to a crisis, how we respond to a recession. And certainly today, agility is very, very key, is really like the currency of today, you could say. So being agile is very, very important. So, to have the ability sometimes to step back and say, okay, I still hold my vision of where we're going. I'm still very clear of, what that vision is. But actually, there's now a detour. Okay. I thought I was going straight that road, but now there's a detour and I have to take a different way to get to it. And what I often see is that sometimes vision and, as it were, the mission, the how-to, is is so tightly together that when there's a roadblock, they both go down. Yeah. Because if I can't get through now, guess what? I bring my vision down. And then we begin to think small. But actually, when I realize that actually this is just a diversion, I'm still going to hold my big vision. But actually, I've got to be agile in order how I get there. Now, I'm not talking about you drop your values. So your vision and your values, they keep the same.
Yes.
But actually, your mission of how to may need to change. So actually, for some people, this is now a time of change where, there's more opportunity. Some people have got less opportunity, but often there is opportunity. But it's, it often goes back to, the saying that, the way we see things will often determine the way we do things.
Okay.
And how I see things will determine how I respond. And life, Michael, life is often made up not by our actions, but by our reactions. And so how I respond is really important, because I have to, going back to two words I said earlier, awareness and responsibility.
Yes.
And so, what are some of the things I'm learning? So for my own business, I've had to be agile and I've had to change. So I'm doing a lot more coaching one-to-one with people, all like you and I talking now.
Yes.
I was doing a lot of the going into bigger groups, 30 to 50 at a time, doing a lot of training. Now that may come back probably sometime next year, maybe, but actually what can I do now?
Right.
What can I do now? There's a lot that I can do now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've got different products coming out, but for a lot of people, this time has probably accelerated where they may have thought they may have been in 2 or 3 years' time.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's been sort of accelerated forward and people have had to respond.
Oh, that's great. You made a comment about people continuing to maintain their vision and not allowing their vision to shrink back. And you made reference to the name of your organization, Keep Thinking Big. Now, just from working with you, hearing some of the different things that you talk about, how did you decide on that name? I know that's one of your big focuses is making sure that people maintain a bigger picture, so to speak. And how did you kind of decide on that name, and what made you go that route?
Yeah, I think with my experience in life and my experience in business, I often find that through circumstances that there could be a number of situations where circumstances or people may actually want you to think small.
Yes.
And you don't always reach your full potential. Now, if we had time, I could go into lots of stories where that had an impact upon my own life personally, where through different things happening, there was every reason I could put up two hands for why I should think small, or why I should think differently and have no potential. But there came a time where I realized that I had, and I'm a person of faith, and I think God wants us to think big because God is big. And so he could work through us. And when I did my TEDx talk, the theme that we were given, so everyone is given a set theme for the day. The theme was transformation, which I absolutely love talking about that. So transformation was the theme, but my topic, what I spoke into with that, was how to overcome self-limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Now, everyone has self-limiting beliefs. They're all inside, but you know what? They often will work out. And so there's a physical working out of it, either through what we do or what we say. And so how do we overcome self-limiting beliefs? Part of that is how we begin to think big. So look at the word big, B.I.G.
Right.
That's what I spoke into, is beliefs. So what am I believing about myself? What am I believing about my product? What am I believing about my team? What am I believing about my company? What am I believing about the future? So, we look at these things. So belief is really, really important. But I have noticed that a lot of people, they just stay with belief. And it's all up here.
Right.
I think it starts here. But if it really is making a difference, it's got to work out of here as well. Right. And so for me, I'm very much feet on the ground. I'm a strategic guy. So, I want to see results. Right. I had a reputation as I worked for a large corporation, results, not excuses. That's what I am. I want to see results, but it starts with beliefs. So, you and I, we're smart people. People listening to this, they're smart people. And we could believe for the world, but guess what? If we never step out and do anything, nothing's going to happen. Yeah. Just remains a happy thought. So B for beliefs. Beliefs have then got to turn into intentions. What are we going to do? How are we going to be different? What's the strategy that we've got moving forward? Where have we got to invest and where have we got to withdraw from? And we look at SMART goals and we look at strategic planning. So we have the intentionality. Therefore, we have a good game plan moving forward. Now, good news is we've got the beliefs right. We've got the intentionality right. And we're working these things through. Guess what? We then come to G. Yeah. G is for growth. G is for growth. So we're growing. Now, I'm all for goals, but goals are for growth. The thing I see about goals sometimes is that people reach a goal, but then the sad thing is, Michael, they make that goal into a monument. I remember when that happened, and they look back. But actually, the key for goals for growth, which I teach about, is that each goal sets us up to move forward to growth. And so therefore, I'm growing as a person. I'm growing in my leadership. I'm growing my organization and my team. And as a team leader, as a manager, as an entrepreneur, business owner, asking the question, how am I growing my team? As I look back in the last 6 months, have my team grown? Have we grown in effectiveness? Yeah. Because it comes back to being efficient and effective. So long answer, I guess, to choosing a name, but the name had a strategy behind it to make sure that people think big. Today, more than ever, yes, we need to be a people who keep thinking big.
No, that's great. I'm glad you were able to share all of that with us, because you said it so eloquently in being able to, because people are going to keep thinking no matter what we do. As long as we're here, our minds are going to have thoughts come through them. Whether we choose those thoughts or not, that's a whole nother question. But in a very simple 3-letter word, you put together how they can think their own thoughts and put them into practice and change their lives. So I'm really glad that you had the opportunity to share that with us. I know we're just about out of time, and I want to kind of finish up. Don't want to hold you too much longer, but if you don't mind, if you could share a little bit about some of the services that you provide and how people may be able to reach out and contact you.
Sure, I really appreciate that. So you can go to my website, keepthinkingbig.com. You'll see some material on there that you can download free of charge. So, for instance, if you're looking at developing teams, there's a great white paper there that you can be working with. Maybe you've got a company and you're looking at taking it to the next level. So you need some strategic planning. Again, there's a document there that you can download. There's a lot of work on there that I do with regard to people in sales and in leadership and in teams, where I talk about and work a lot with people around the whole communication element. So that could be within like a DISC model, if you come across DISC. So again, that's working with people in how to strengthen our team through the art of connecting and communicating. And actually, perhaps you've got a strong product that you've got within your business, but you're just not you're just not connecting with the public like you want to. Some of these tools will really help you get there. So what I do is I close the gap, literally I close the gap between expectations and results. So if any of your listeners are struggling and thinking, yeah, we've got some gaps, it could be in communication, it could be in sales, it could be in team delivery, I'll come in and I'll help you to close those gaps between expectations and results to ensure that you have a productive, efficient, and effective business moving forward.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate the time today, Tony. With the time difference and being able to coordinate, I really do appreciate you taking the time and just sharing some of your insight and some of your wisdom and the different experiences that you have. I think there's a lot of great material here, great nuggets of information that you've shared, and I do again appreciate your time. I want to thank everybody for joining us this week on the Business Leader Spotlight. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you for watching this week's video. I hope you were able to find one thing you can begin to apply to your life today. I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you have any feedback, leave it in the comments below. Let us know if you know of any great guests to be on the Spotlight. I look forward to your questions and your comments. Thanks again for watching.